The Untouchables in the Pax Britannica by Babasaheb Ambedkar. Part 104. People wanted freedom, political, economic, and social. This the British government declined to create. As a result of this, so far as the moral and social life of the people who was concerned, the change of government by the Mughals to a government by the British was only a change of rulers rather than a change of system. Owing to the adoption of the principle of non interference, partly by preference and partly by necessity, by the British, the natives of India found themselves under a government distinguished in no vital aspect from those under which they had toiled and worshipped, lived and died through all their weary and forgotten history. From a political standpoint, the change was but the replacement of one despotism by another. It accepted the arrangements as it found them and preserved them faithfully in the manner of the Chinese tailor when given an old coat as a pattern, produced with pride an exact replica, rents, patches, and all. This policy of non intervention, though understandable, was, so far as the Untouchables were concerned, mistaken in its conception and disastrous in its consequences. It may be granted that untouchables can only be lifted up by the Hindus recognizing his human right in him as a human being as correct. But that does not dispose of the matter. The question remains, how is this recognition of his rights as a human being to be secured? There are only two ways of helping to realize this object. One way is to make him worthy of respect, and the other is to punish those who disrespect him and deny him of his rights. The first way involves the duty to educate him and to place him in a position of authority. The other way involves social reform by making recognition of untouchability a penal offence. Neither of this the British government was prepared to do. It would not give the untouchables any preferential treatment in public service. It would not undertake to reform Hindu society. The result was that the untouchable has remained what he was before the British, namely an untouchable. He was a citizen, but he was not given the rights of a citizen. He paid taxes, out of which schools were maintained, but his children could not be admitted into those schools. He paid taxes out of which wells were built, but he had no right to take water from them. He paid taxes out of which roads were built, but he has no right to use them. He paid taxes for the upkeep of the state, but he himself was not entitled to hold offices in the state. He was a subject, but not a citizen. The untouchable stood most in need of education and supply of water. He stood mostly in need of office to protect himself. Owing to his poverty, he should have been exempted from all taxes. All this was reversed. The untouchable was taxed to pay for the education of the touchable. The untouchable was taxed to pay for the water supply of the touchable. The untouchable was taxed to pay for the salary of the touchables in office. What good has British conquest done to the untouchables? In education, nothing. In service, nothing. In status, nothing. There is one thing in which they have gained, and that is equality in the eye of the law. There is, of course, nothing special in it because equality before law is common to all. There is, of course, nothing tangible in it because those who hold office often prostitute their position and deny to the untouchables the benefit of this rule. With all this, the principle of equality before law has been of special benefit to the untouchables for the simple reason that they never had it before the days of the British. The law of Manu did not recognize the principle of equality. Inequality was the soul of the law of Manu. It pervaded all walks of life, all social relationships, and all departments of state. It had fouled the air, and the untouchables were simply smothered. The principle of equality before law has served as a great disinfectant. It has cleansed the air, and the untouchable is permitted to breathe the air of freedom. This is a real gain to the untouchables, and having regard to the ancient past, it is no small gain. The end.